Okay, this project is called Keyframe Labyrinth, and I'm going to walk you through all the steps. So take them one at a time, pause when you need to. I'll tell you good times to pause, and then complete the steps and move on to the next part. So let's get started. First thing we need to do is down here at the bottom is our dock. This is where all of my favorite apps are. I'm going to click over here to my Finder, over here in the corner usually. And a Finder window is going to pop up. These are my most recently used files. I'm going to go to my desktop, that's what I recommend. And I'm going to select my name folder here, Mr. Justin. If you don't have a folder with your name on it on your desktop, the way to do that real quick, go to your desktop. You can then find an open space, right click, and you're going to create a new folder, and you can just type your name in right there. But I don't need that because I already have my name folder right here. This project is called Keyframe Labyrinth. Alright, you should have already created a hero character in a previous part of this project. There should be a video if you want to learn how to make a hero. This is my little goblin character though. I just want to make sure he's there. And now in the same Finder window, I'm going to make sure, I'm going to plug in a goober right now. So the goober should show up right here. Goober is just a little USB drive. I'll click on that and you can see right here at the top, there's some extra stuff here, which we don't need. I'm looking for the file called Labyrinth. So plug in a goober, find it here in the Finder, and then with this Labyrinth, you're just going to right click on it and you're going to make sure you say open with Photoshop. Click on that and boom, there is our Labyrinth. So it's really plain right now, it's just all gray. You'll have a chance to color it in a little bit later. There's actually already a little hero built in here. He's just called player there on in the layers over here. But we can just turn him off. So if you click this little eyeball here, it turns off the layer like that, and he's gone. So now my labyrinth is empty. You can see that I've got a layer 5 here. That's the actual labyrinth. And then this background layer, which I call the table, is all gray. That's the background gray color here. So now what I need to do is go back to my Finder down here, the little happy face, click on it, and go back to my name folder, which is right here on my desktop. Name folder. Keyframe Labyrinth is our project. And I'm going to find the hero file that's a PNG. So I'm going to grab this and I'm just going to drag it right into Photoshop. Now he's a little small when he gets added in here, so I need to change his size. Just grab one of these edge squares and stretch him up, make him as big as I want or as small as I want. He should fit in the labyrinth, so something like that, and I can move him around. Maybe I'll make him a little smaller. It's okay if his head sticks out above the top of the wall. Gives it kind of a 3D effect. So I'm going to put him right there. Then I'm going to hit this check mark here, and that sets him in place. Boom. Well, I've got my tools over here on the right. A lot of people keep their tools over here on the left side, so I'll just leave them over there since that's probably where your tools are. And I'm going to be using this very top tool right here, the move tool. That allows me to just click and grab this character and move him around. It's not saving any of this animation that I'm doing. I'm just moving him around, finding a good place to put him to start. But he should definitely start on the start here block right there. Okay. I am going to change the size of my Photoshop here just a little bit so that I can see the bottom there. I want this dock to be down here. Okay. So because we're doing some animation, we always need our timeline window. So I'm going to go up here to my menus, find the window button, alphabetical down at the bottom, timeline. I'm going to click on that, and my timeline shows up right here. Notice I've got my layers pretty skinny. yours might look a little bit different. If they do, it's because you have to click on this little sandwich over here, and you can change the size of each layer by clicking on these panel options. And then this shows you how big the layer is. I say none, but notice if I click here, the layers get really fat, but I like to keep them skinny. So I'm gonna go to panel options, none, okay, they're nice and skinny. So this is my goblin hero here, and this is how long he is shown on screen. The length of this layer this way, horizontally, shows how long he'll be on the screen. This layer down here, layer 5, which you'll remember is the layer that has the actual labyrinth on it, is longer, so it stays on screen for longer. So if I grab this playhead right here, and if I zoom out a little bit like that, when this red line goes past the end of this goblin hero layer, he's going to disappear. Boop, he's gone. So I want his layer to last the entire length of layer 5 here. By the way, this is open and there's all this extra information, transform, opacity, style. We're just about to get into that, but we don't need to know about it just yet. So I'm going to actually close it by clicking. This is a little caret here on the side. That's what I call it, this little arrow. It's called a caret. If I click on it, instead of pointing down, which shows all of the options, if I click it and it points to the right, all that stuff is hidden. I'm going to be on my goblin layer. I'm going to put my cursor right at the edge of at the end of the layer, and the cursor turns into this little symbol, 2 arrows pointing in different directions in a bracket. And I'm going to grab it and I'm going to stretch it to the end of my timeline here. I'm also going to use this little slider bar down here to zoom in on my timeline a little bit. So it fills up the whole window. It's more useful that way. You can see that it's right now set default to 20 seconds, which is a good amount of time for this project. It can take a little bit less time or a little bit more time, but 20 seconds is a good amount of time for this one. Okay, so now we're ready to start animating. Well, almost ready. Want to make sure everything over here is set properly. Notice down here, it's already set to 12 frames per second, so we're good to go. Now we just want to grab this playhead, which shows us where we are in time in our project. We want to go all the way to 0 seconds at the very beginning. And now is the time, with our goblin hero or your hero character's layer selected here, I'm going to click on this little caret right here, and we're going to open that up. If you haven't paused this video yet to get to this point, I recommend pausing here. Just make sure everything looks right. Make sure your hero is in the labyrinth. Make sure the length of your hero layer here is as long as layer 5, the background, which should be about 20 seconds. And you should be zoomed in on this so it fills up the whole length of this timeline. Okay, and if all of that is ready to go, and also the other player, this guy, is turned off with this eyeball, then you're ready to move on. So what we need to do is, because we're doing keyframe animation, we're just going to tell the computer where the character is anytime he makes a turn in his path. So we'll set keyframes at every one of these corners where he makes a turn. I'm going to start him here at the start here block, and I'm going to click this little stopwatch. That's what that is. It's hard to tell sometimes, but it's a circle with 2 little things sticking out of it. It's supposed to be a stopwatch, and it's next to the word transform. So I'm going to click on that, and the picture inside changes a little bit. Now there's a hand on to the watch. There's also a diamond here and a diamond here on the timeline. So this little diamond is the actual keyframe. So it's telling the computer that at this moment in time, at 0 seconds, this goblin is at this point in space. So he's right here at this moment. Now, let's say it takes him 2 seconds to get from here to here. We just kind of have to imagine how long we think it might take him to walk there. You can kind of close your eyes and picture it, or you can take my word for it. Let's say it takes about 2 seconds. So if we think it takes 2 seconds to get from here to here, we're going to leave him where he is. We're going to grab the playhead and we're going to move the playhead to 2 seconds in. So 2 seconds of time have passed. And this red line shows where that is along the layers. And at this moment in time, at 2 seconds, with our move tool selected up here in the toolbar over on the side, top tool, we can click and drag on our hero, doesn't matter how fast we move him across here, to the first point where the labyrinth turns. And notice that when we do that, we moved him over, a new diamond has automatically appeared here. So now it's saying that with this diamond, at 2 seconds, the goblin is over here now. And so all of this time between these two has automatically been filled in by the computer. And we can see that by grabbing this playhead here and sliding it back. And you can see that he follows the path from one keyframe to another. When we go past here, he doesn't make any moves because there's no more keyframes. So the computer isn't telling him that he needs to be anywhere at any time. So if we go back here, if we want to, we can hit this play button and that'll show us in real time what the animation looks like. So there he goes. It's about right. So we want to just keep going now. This is actually a good time to pause. Don't move on until your little hero character moves from the start position to that first corner in the labyrinth with 2 keyframes down here. Only 2, one at 0 seconds and one at 2 seconds. At the 2 second mark, the goblin should be over here. At the 0 second mark, your hero, this little goblin for me, is at the beginning. So he gets to here, and so now, this path is a little bit shorter than this one. So let's say it only takes him 1 second to get from here to this next corner. We're going to grab our playhead, and we're going to move it to 3 seconds. And we're going to grab our hero character, making sure that our playhead is further ahead now. For me, it's 1 second later. Right here, there's no keyframes, but if I grab him, move him to this next corner, a new keyframe has appeared. You can see that he's now following this path. At this keyframe, he's here. At this one, he's here. And then at this one, he's here. So now we can very quickly go through the rest and just see how that works. To 4 seconds, he's here. 5 seconds, he's here. 6 seconds, he's over here. 7 seconds, he goes up here and decides at 9 seconds, he's going to go check out this area. He's going to, if I want him to stay in one spot for a certain amount of time, I'm going to set a keyframe when he gets there. And then I'm going to set another keyframe. So if I want to set a keyframe without actually moving him, if I want from here to just be him standing here, I need to go over and click this little diamond right here. And that puts a keyframe in without moving. So you can see between here and here, nothing changes because this keyframe and this keyframe are the same. So there's no place for him to go. And then he's gonna wait for 1 second, and then in another second, he's gonna go back to where he came from. Then he's got a long way to go, so let's give him 2 seconds on that. Let's say about 1 second and a half to get over here. Another second to get here. 1.5 seconds to get back to 17 seconds over here. Another second to get, let's say 0.5 seconds to get here. Now notice I'm starting to run out of room here. And that's not really a problem. All I have to do is extend these layers. I want to extend these two. I'm actually going to go in, grab this player character, hit the delete key, and get rid of it. So then I only have the 2 layers that I'm really concerned about. Actually, there's another one. Oh, that's it, I guess. Okay. Let's see here. So here he goes. We got some room from about here. Let's have him go. Whoops. Whoops. Make sure I've only got this hero layer selected. Now I can move him over. He's got a long way to go down here. But from here, I'm actually going to stop because I don't want to show you the entire solution. You can figure out the rest for yourself. So this will actually be the end of my animation right about here. So let's just go back to the beginning and make sure that works. So I'm going to hit the play button and off he goes, figuring out the labyrinth. There we go. Here's where he makes his little mistake. This is where the keyframes stay in one spot. Then he goes back. Up he goes, over and around, up and over and down, and then we stop him right there so you can figure out the rest. I've actually got mine. I'm going to hit stop set by clicking on this little gear. I've told my project that I want it to loop over and over again from beginning to end. By clicking this little thing here. You can turn that on if you want. And then I'll just click away. So we can imagine that my character gets all the way to the end. The next thing to do once you have solved your labyrinth and you have a little bit of extra time, I recommend coloring in the walls and decorating the labyrinth. You can add new layers. Just click this little plus button there. Notice down here the layer started where my playhead was. I actually wanted to start all the way at the beginning and be the entire length. So remember to stretch, put your cursor right at the edge there, turn it into that cursor and stretch it out like that. So that way this layer shows up for the entire length of the video too. Doesn't matter where you draw in here, it's a single image stretched across a certain amount of time. It's not like our video layers from Circle Morph. So it doesn't matter where we draw, but let's just say on this layer here, I want to color in the walls. I can grab this layer. I want it to be under the layer that has the lines for this. And let's say I want to paint the walls red. So I'll find a red. Oh, I've got this color wheel as my as the way I select colors. Yours might look a little bit different. If it does, there's a little sandwich up here in the corner of this panel. And the classic one is this hue cube, where the main color is here, and then the brightness and saturation is controlled in this big box. But I like the color wheel better. I pick the color around the edge here, and then I pick the brightness and saturation on this triangle. So let's say I want a red, something like that. I like a kind of ketchupy red. I'll make it nice and bright. And then I can just go in with my brush tool, right click to choose the size and the hardness. That's how sharp the edge is. And I can make it maybe bigger than that. Let's see. There we go. And then I'm just going to color this in a little bit. So take your time. Also remember, if you want, you can draw up some bad guys for the labyrinth and add those guys in. You can animate them in exactly the same way. So let me just pause coloring this in for a second, and let's say I wanted to add a little bad guy. So I'm going to go up to this layer here. That's my lines of my labyrinth. I'm going to hit this plus button to add a new layer. Layers, whenever you create a new layer, it always is created right above whatever layer you currently have selected. So keep that in mind when you're creating layers, but remember you can also move them around. Anyway, layer 7, I'm going to call it bad guy. And let's say the little bad guy is a worm. So I'm going to grab my black, change my brush size back to kind of small, maybe a little bit bigger. There we go. And then on this, I can just draw a bad guy somewhere. Let's put him over here in the corner. We said he's a little worm. So let's just draw a little worm. his little thing there, his eyeball. And then we'll just create another layer under it. So create a layer under it. We go down to a layer below, hit the plus button, and now this new layer is here. I'm gonna call this bad guy color. Worms are kind of brown, something like that. I'm gonna zoom in, hit the space bar, click and drag to move my canvas around so I can get up on my worm there. Change the brush size again, and then just color him in like that. Now, to make him easier to animate, I'm actually gonna merge these two layers together, the bad guy layer and the bad guy color layer. So I'm gonna hold shift, so I've already got this layer selected, hold shift and click on this layer right above. Now they're both selected. Now I right click, use this little caret to get down to the bottom. There's a lot of things I can do with this right click. I'm gonna merge the layers, it's towards the bottom. That way the bad guy is just one single layer, which I can use the move tool to move him around. Bad guy layer needs to be stretched out, so I'm gonna stretch it this way and this way. And if we click on the bad guy's little caret here on the next to his layer in the timeline, he's got the same thing. His says position instead of transform. If you want transform instead of position, and transform gives you more options, but then what you have to do is you have to go over here to the layers. You have to right click on the text and you have to find convert to smart object. That gives you more options. So you want to turn the layer into a smart object. Smart objects have this little icon in the corner here in this layer. And so notice now when I open this up, it's transform instead of position. So if I want, I can click the little stopwatch, create a keyframe, move it over, and I can animate him just the same way that I animated my other guy. I'm just having him go back and forth. There we go. If I zoom out, let's just see if that looks good. There he goes. He's just moving back and forth. A little bad guy in there. All right. So I'll finish coloring this in my off time. For now, the last thing you need to know, so once you have your character solve the maze, make some bad guys, decorate your labyrinth as much as you want, now you got to export it so that you can turn it in. So just like a lot of the other projects that we have created, we're going to go up here to File, and we're going to export this project. But actually, before we do this, we should make sure that we save. Okay? So we're going to hit, so the first time we ever save a project, we're going to make sure we click Save As right here. And that lets us choose where we want to put it exactly. If we just hit Save, it could be saved randomly. So if you don't exactly know where you save something, do Save As and just make sure. Save As. So now we can go to our desktop, our name folder, our Keyframe Labyrinth folder, and we can save our Labyrinth. I want to make sure we get the naming right early here. So we're going to save it as, so you're going to put your name, and put a space, and then you're going to put the name of the project, which is Keyframe Labyrinth, and make sure it's in the right spot. So desktop, name folder, folder with the project, and then here the right name, and then hit save. Now it's saved, and now I can export. I always want to save before I export because sometimes it crashes. So now we can go back up here to File. Let's see here. Everything is, I think things are still saving in the background. Sometimes when things are saving, it locks you out. Actually, what happened was this popped up. So this is talking about some random formatting options that you don't need to know about. I'm even going to say don't show this again, and I'm going to click OK. All right, so now we should be good to go. It's saved. Now we can go up to File. We can go to Export. We're going to render a video. File, Export, down to the bottom, Render Video. Boom. This takes a minute sometimes. It's thinking. Let's see, it's thinking. Initializing video export, and then this window pops up here. So make sure the name is right, your name, space, and then the name of the project, Keyframe Labyrinth. Make sure the folder is right, so click Select Folder. You want to put it on your desktop, in your name folder, and in the right project folder. And then you're going to hit Choose. I think that this is probably too big of a file. So I would change the size of the file to HDV 1080p, right there. HDV 1080p is a good one. Just take my word for it. I'm going to make the aspect ratio square. You don't have to worry about this stuff too much, but if you want, these are good settings. It just kind of sometimes stretches the video in a weird way. Anyway, format is H.264. We set the size, and we're going to hit render. Click. Now it's thinking. This is going to take a minute because it's a 20-second video, and it's got to put it all together into a single video. So that means it's kind of like smashing all the layers down, flattening it out, turning it into a video. Once your video has finished exporting, it's going to show up down here in the Finder. You can see it's going to be this MP4 right here. It doesn't show up yet because it's still going. So we just have to wait. I'm going to close this window. Let's see, about halfway there. Make sure you turn this project into Google Classroom and fill out the reflection, which will be linked, and then you'll be good to go. If you have extra time, you can add more and more bad guys, decorate the labyrinth as much as you want. Maybe even come up with some sort of lead villain for the labyrinth. Okay, it looks like it's ready, so we can go back down to our Finder here. Go to our desktop, name folder, Keyframe Labyrinth. There it is right there. Remember, if I click on it once, it turns blue, and if I hit the space bar, that lets me get a preview. So I hit the space bar. And there it goes. So you can see the little worm is animating, my goblin's animating. The red of the walls isn't quite finished yet, so I would go back and finish that and then re-export it. But there we go. And then I can close it. And now it's ready to be turned in from there. All right, hopefully that all made sense. Have fun, and I hope you solve the labyrinth with joy and bravery. Thanks for watching.